It's time for Waking Up with Wesley. Today's forecast and weather-wide discussion with WLOX First Alert Weather's senior meteorologist, Wesley Williams.
All right, hello there, South Mississippi. Thank you for waking up with Wesley. I'm Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams. So in this update, we're going to talk about the winter solstice and what does that mean. And of course, that is coming in this weekend. So we'll take a look at what to expect as far as the winter solstice is concerned. I hope that you're enjoying the chilly conditions we have this morning. Temperatures have cooled off compared to yesterday morning. But yeah, the winter season is, pretty close here, right? We are officially 2 days away from the start of winter on the calendar. That will begin on Sunday. So today being Friday, that gives us 2 days away. And that technical moment will be at 9:03 a.m. That's going to be the exact moment that winter begins. And that is because of a thing that you might have heard about called the winter solstice. What is that? What does that word mean? Well, it is a moment. It is a measure of time, and the solstice is a moment shorter than a second. It only happens for just a brief moment when winter begins. It's a moment when the sun's rays are angled directly over Earth's southern hemisphere. Because these heavenly bodies are always in motion, right? So to get a certain alignment, it only lasts for a moment, and then the alignment is gone. So we've been nearing this alignment every day since the beginning of summer, where the sun has gotten farther and farther south of the equator. And now those direct sun rays are going to be angled directly over the southern hemisphere. Now, technically, that line of latitude is called the Tropic of Capricorn. And that is where they will get direct sunlight overhead, bringing them their summer season. So places south of the equator, including Chile, maybe Argentina, and other parts of the world. This also includes Australia. It's going to be their first day of summer in 2 days. But the exact opposite happens for us because we're up here. We're up here out in the cold. Like the sun's not pointed over us, the sun's actually pointed over the southern hemisphere. So with us being tilted away, that's why we have less sunlight this time of year. And that's why our temperatures get cooler this time of year. With less sun to heat things up every day, it does actually get cooler. And so that is why the seasons change. It's actually to do with your tilt with respect to the sun. In our winter, the northern hemisphere is tilted away from the sun. In our summer, the northern hemisphere is actually tilted toward the sun. And so in terms of daylight, Sunday is going to be the shortest day of the year. For South Mississippi, we'll see only about 10 hours and 11 minutes of daylight. So that is, one thing that if you look at it a different way, once you're at the bottom, it's all, up from there. And even though the winter solstice, Sunday, will be the shortest day of the year, once you get to the day after that, Monday, the days are going to start to get longer and longer, a little bit by little bit. Like we said, this is a day with that type of sunrise, with that type of sunset. You really only have about 10 hours of daylight. Going to spring, you can already see, look how much more daylight we get. Sunrise, 7 in the morning, sunset, 7 in the evening. That's 12 hours. So we will increase by 2 hours as we go to spring, which will be in March of next year. And then you look at summer, the sun comes up before 5 in the morning. The sun doesn't go down till after 8 in the evening. So those are your longest days of the year. You've got even more daylight then, more than 13 hours, maybe in some parts of the northern hemisphere, more than 14 hours of sunlight. And then it's back down to 12 hours in the fall and back down to 10 hours in the winter. So that is kind of the explanation of the relationship between the amount of daylight you get in the year and the season that you have on the calendar. And it doesn't really change dramatically day by day, right? Because today our sunrise is 6:48, our sunset is 4:59, and that gives us about 11 minutes or 10 hours and 11 minutes of daylight. And then on Sunday, which is the official start of winter, sunrise is 6:49, sunset is 5 p.m. So you actually still have about 10 hours and 11 minutes of daylight. Now, I guess if we went down and looked at not just hours, not just minutes, but looked at seconds, technically Sunday will probably be a few seconds shorter than today. But yeah, day by day, it doesn't really change dramatically. You have to look over a whole year to see that more significant change like we just did a moment ago. So what can you expect in the winter season in South Mississippi? Well, we just mentioned the short days, which gradually become longer. Once we get into January, definitely once we get into February, you start to really see more daylight, and it becomes even more increasing as we go to March. Of course, freezing temperatures are common in South Mississippi, so it's not strange for us to hit 32 degrees. However, snow and ice are actually rare, despite what we saw earlier this past January. That was a historic event. You know, you usually don't have things like snowpocalypse, whatever just happened this past January. That's usually pretty rare. Sometimes it can happen, but not something that you would rely on to see snow and ice as far as precipitation. What can we rely on? These things, these numbers, these temperatures that normally are in the 60s. You're looking at December's normal highs, middle 60s, January's normal highs, lower 60s, and February's normal highs, middle 60s. So on any given day in the winter season, if you have afternoon temperatures in the 60s, it's pretty close to normal. Now, if you go into the 70s, it's a little above normal. If you have 50s, below normal. And then we got the morning temperatures, or those overnight lows that you always hear about. And there you can see those are normally in the 40s. So it's actually not normal for us to see 30s, especially freezing. But it does typically happen at least once a year, but it's not something that happens like every day. It might happen a few times a month, every given winter. But usually on a typical night, the temperatures are in the middle 40s in December on a given morning. They're in the lower 40s in January on a typical morning. And they're in the middle 40s in February on a typical morning. So that's a look at what to expect as we go into the winter season, 2025 into 2026. And hopefully we'll get some winter-like weather. I know the trend has been for milder conditions into Christmas week. And, you know, sometimes it winds up that way, but it probably won't stay that way. I would imagine as we get into January, it's easily going to see those temperatures probably getting a bit cooler, since January is literally like the dead of winter, and it's pretty often you're going to see things cool down by then. This is what we'll end it with, just basically your look at the year's temperatures, what you normally see. And like we said, in December, you usually have middle 60s in the afternoon. January, your typical coldest month of the year, with lower 60s in the afternoon. And in February, you're back to middle 60s. And before you know it, there's spring, March, April, May, 70s, 80s. And then there's summer, June, July, August. And we're back to 90 before you know it. So if these winter months are a little too cold for you, don't worry. Summer is not going to waste any time on its return trip to South Mississippi. Well, that'll do it for today's edition of Waking Up with Wesley. I've been Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams. We'll see you again next time.
Thank you for watching Waking Up with Wesley with WLOX First Alert Weather Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams.